We're turning this old farm truck into just the ultimate mountain carver. Ow. Ha. What do you think? We're gonna terrorize sports cars. Boom. Hello and welcome to the shop. I'm Jared and this is the Questionable Garage and this is some old iron. We're back to some old classic metal. Some of you guys are gonna get real excited about that. This is my 1971 International Harvester 1010D Johnny Rev edition. We call it the Johnny Rev because the front suspension was completely worn out. So my friend Randy over at GRC Ridge, and well, we put a Corvette front suspension in it. Then LS swapped it. Some of you guys said, you know, took too long to do it. Had we put the engine in the normal spot, yeah, you're right. But instead we mounted that LS on the Corvette subframe, making it a mid-engine truck and an absolute handling monster. Sort of. We've been working around the factory Corvette front suspension, the stuff that was, you know, under a car. This is a truck, and the rear, well, it's high off the ground. That's because it's still the factory springs in the back, which, you know, great for a truck, not so great for a sports truck. So we are going to address something. You know, you've had parts sitting around forever. QA1 sent me out forever ago some awesome parts, and I've not been able to get them installed. Well, that changes now. We are going to get this truck handling better than ever and fix one other major problem with it. That's, well, let's go for a quick road trip. We've got it looking a little bit like, you know, a dog in heat. We can fix that. Other thing we've got to fix. Ever since we got the LS3 in here, it's loud. Before, it was okay to drive around in. It wasn't just horrible. Right now, can you tell? It's too loud. No brakes, just spins the tires off real good, real good. Oh, one of White County's finest. So let's take a look at just how bad the rake is. One, I need to get the front of this truck up a little bit more off the ground and the rear down, but I've never actually measured to see where we land on the body. So the front, about 26 3/4, you know. Let me Sharpie. I was gonna Sharpie it on the window, but I forgot a Sharpie. Remember that for me, 26 3/4. We come to the back here, 28 3/4. So we got about a 2-inch rake. So I think we split the difference. We go about 27 1/2, get that front up, rear down, and we're gonna look amazing. But before we show you all of the parts it's gonna take to do that, I say we get it up in the air, get the front suspension off of it, and I'll show you what's going on there, and hopefully it goes as smoothly as we planned. And then we get onto the rear, and then finally, we'll talk about how we're gonna fix that really obnoxious exhaust sound. So step one, into the air we go. Now, it's no secret, I've been on the road a lot. We've got projects spread across the country, different factory visits going on, just all kinds of madness. That means I've been on the road a lot, and I've been relying on takeout food and fast food. And let me tell you what, I'm feeling it. But today's sponsor, Factor, is gonna help you out there, just like they're helping me. Factor is a ready to heat and eat meal service. You get fresh, never frozen meals delivered right to your door, where all you gotta do is open them up, stab a couple holes in the lid, and throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes. And then you've got some fresh food ready to fill you up. The average cost of driving through a drive-thru for one person currently in the nation is just under $12. Now, depending on your subscription plan, you're gonna spend less on Factor, and you're getting fresh food. No mystery ingredients, nothing that's been sitting under a heat lamp for 30 minutes. They are chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals that, again, come right to your door. You know you're getting a good
meal with Factor. Today we're trying elote corn bison sausage. I probably said elote wrong, but you know what I can do? I can poke the 2 holes in the top of it, throw it in the microwave, and absolutely scarf down something delicious. You've got the convenience of fast food, but the added benefit of something you could have cooked at home. So if you're ready to give Factor a try, head to factor75.com and use code questionablefb50 during checkout. You're gonna get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Again, that's factor75.com using code questionablefb50. Now let's get back to making this old truck handle just a little bit better. Now, you hear us say that stock Corvette suspension. And you may be questioning how exactly or what exactly do you mean by that? Well, this lower cradle is a Corvette C5 subframe. This is a C5 knuckle, C5 uppers, and a C5 shock that we worked really, really hard to mimic the exact geometry of our upper control arm mounts and the shock mount. We worked to just make it so everything off a Corvette could, in theory, go directly onto this car. So our goal is to go ahead and remove the original monoleaf and remove the shock absorber and hopefully run a coilover. So I'm going to go ahead and pop all of this out off both sides. We'll feed that monoleaf out and then we'll work on getting our coilovers in that will actually set to an increased ride height. All right, so let's talk about that Corvette suspension. Something kind of unique to the Corvette, as far as I'm aware, is the monoleaf. So it's kind of like a leaf spring suspension. This is a composite spring, quite lightweight, and links the left and right side. This is how you control and act as a spring, your traditional metal coil spring. That's what you got going on here. And then, of course, you have your traditional shock absorber. So a shock absorber's role, a lot of people think it's what does the ride or absorbs the bumps. That predominantly is your spring. The spring is what's supposed to set your ride height and absorb that impact. This keeps that spring from just bouncing all over wildly. So what are we doing to get a little bit more ride height and a whole lot more tunability? QA1, we have got their C5 front coilover. Now it's a coilover spring because your spring coil is over your shock absorber. Makes a much more tight, compact package. This is double adjustable, both compression and rebound, and then you can adjust ride height via your spring preload. The spring rate of the main primary spring is 700 pounds, no matter how much you compress it. We're gonna put this thing together all the way wound down, makes it a little bit easier to fit. And then we gotta figure out, does it even fit? Because remember, other than that lower section, all of the top is a complete custom install. It's brackets that we used cardboard and real CAD to design. Randy cut it all out. We kind of welded it in. So let's see. What we're gonna do is we'll set it kind of on the lower control arm first. Screw jacker on our way up. I am doing adjusters out. I don't know if there's a better way or worse way, or whatever. I just remember on certain other cars, I've tried to do adjusters in and end up having some problems like that. Or, you know, it looks like as you're assembling it, you're gonna have tons of room. And then the moment you put it on the car and all fully assembled in that ride height, you can't get to them anymore. Ow. It's one of those times where 3 hands would be useful. Just get these bottoms started. All right, well, so far, things are kind of pointing in the right spot. The spacing bushing fit right in. Rubber bushings there, lining up how it's supposed to. All right, we kind of snug at the bottom. Do our top hat and bushing. Top hat. That fits right where it's supposed to. So you snug down that top nut and come back 1/4 turn, and then you got a jam nut that goes on top. Back 1/4 turn. And top nut. I do believe these things might be fitting just perfect. I mean, granted, we spent, you know, a day on math, but still, uplift your friends. Randy, you freaking killed it on this. Thank you. Our plan was always to be able to just swap out Corvette parts, and you freaking nailed it. Now, when you're lowering, they tell you to compress the helper spring just 2 inches. I'm actually going substantially more than that because we're not really just trying to lower. We're trying to gain a little height or stay a little truer to stock ride height. So I'll get that turned up. Then we tighten up our control arm, put the brake back on. And before we tear the rear completely apart, we're gonna set it down and kind of roll her front to back a good bit. See if we're getting the ride height we're hoping. Oh, feels good when things work. I could use a few more things going. Well, I'm probably speaking too soon. So what's really impressive is the instructions made a comment. Check at full droop. You might need to clearance the control or the sway bar end a little bit. And just the fact that, yeah, we had to clearance it just a tiny bit at full droop. There we go. Johnny's about to have some really dang good suspension. As if it needed any more speed for the mountains. So one thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna start with a baseline on our compression and rebound of 12 clicks. If you're doing like just a street cruiser, you'd be at like 6 to 8, something around there. Well then, let's pick it up on the ground. I'm a happy camper. Tell me if we got what we're looking for. I guess one good indicator will be, can I kick the lift arm out? But it's got to roll front and back a good couple times. Almost. Rear touchdown, of course, because the rear is 1,800 feet tall. Come on, stop going down. But man, that like first touchdown, I get it, it's taller, but I think it looks so much better. I've got about a 1/4 inch more preload we can put in it. Oh, it's giving me hope though. Lots of optimism so far. Probably slightly misplaced, but that's okay. Get this out of the way. It's a lot stiffer. Oh, a lot stiffer. That's a good thing. Oh my goodness, guys. I think we nailed the ride height. Look at her. Oh my goodness. Something so simple as really good suspension, which isn't simple at all. It's already got the front of the truck looking so much better. We got a whole lot of rear work to do, but that's gonna be the morning time where I'm gonna introduce you to how we're gonna make this truck absolutely destroy supercars in the mountain. We'll see you in the morning. Welcome to my rear end, or at least Johnny's rear end. Let's take a quick look at what we've got going on for suspension back here. Now again, in the front, we've got that nice Corvette C5, now that amazing QA1 coilover set. And back here, let's go back to the 20s. Maybe even further than that. We have got a traditional solid axle. This is our rear axle here. It's a solid piece, meaning left and right wheels, they kind of go up or teeter oppositely. Independent, you could have each wheel doing its own thing. It is mounted to leaf springs, called as such because these are called spring leafs. You have multiple leaf springs. And then for my shocks, I'm actually running what's called a helper shock. You may look at that and go, hey, it's a coilover. Well, you're technically correct. But really, its purpose here is a non-adjustable shock with a linear spring to help with load. Very primitive is what we got going back here. Nothing fancy, but you know it is kind of fancy. I got it on the table here. Boom. This is the QA1 4-link, triangulated 4-link builder kit. All of these bars that show a little bit of rust, that's not how they showed up. It's my fault. I've had this for a very long time. I am sorry. Not getting it installed sooner. Life happened. But we are back. So what we've got here is we have our lower control bars, our lower link bars, our upper link bars, the bar that these will mount to in the chassis. We've got the shocks, we've got the axle mounts. We have got everything we need to put this amazing suspension setup right there. But before we can get this in and really start talking about the ins and outs of this suspension setup and what we're looking for and why we're making several decisions that we're making, we got to get all that old out. So cue some epic demo montage music, and we're going to start pulling all of the last old out of this International Harvester corn binder. Well, all right, let's take a look at some things that we've got it, now that we've got it apart, and kind of explain how leaf springs work. We did a little bit before, but they don't just do the springy action up and down. They are what our 4-link bars do. It is also responsible for keeping that axle centered in the truck. But as springs get old, the leaves get out of alignment, your bushings wear, things don't sit exactly where they're supposed to. So that's where when we go to this real tight 4-link setup, we're gonna be able to keep Johnny's rear exactly where it's supposed to be. I also discovered in doing some of my preliminary measurements, it wasn't centered in the truck anymore. It actually was offset half an inch to the left. So I did some measurements here. Now, one thing QA1 does tell you to do is take a whole lot of measurements, and you really do wanna do that to make sure it goes back. But I know I want my axle centered left to right, and I want to center it in my wheel well. Now, I'll show you on here real quick one thing we're going to do. I need to order different bushing spacers. We have 3-inch springs, which not a lot of trucks tend to run anymore. So their spacer setups don't do exactly what I need. It'll work if I had 3.5-inch springs. So I'm going to order a pair of 7/8 width so we can center this. Now, I thought about moving it all the way out here. For your lower bars, the wider you can make them on your axle, the better it's gonna be. Well, we kind of have a little bit of a cheat code. We have a big truck axle. It's got a big wide rear end, so we're gonna be able to get these rear bars out quite a whole lot. And even though I could go that extra, 1/4 inch out, I thought for the sake of centering and fabrication, I'm just gonna run it off
center here. That's gonna let me take our spring mount or our lower bar mount and basically center it off of that mount, get her in a good position, and tack her in. Next step is our coilover mount. Where are we going to land these new springs, shocks, to take control of the rear end? Now you have a couple options with these. You can go in front of the axle and it lets you reuse a single crossbar mount where we would be mounting our upper triangulated links. You can use that as an all-in-one. But the further back you can get your coilover and your shock on the rear end on a 4-link setup, the better it's going to be. The further back that shock is, the more it's gonna work. Also, you want it straight up and down. But we ran into a couple problems when we were looking at using those stock mounts. If you look, surprisingly, we have a very narrow frame. There's not a ton of room in the middle, which means with our arms coming right here down this channel, our shocks are gonna have to come all the way into the middle, which means you have a lot of lever out here working and they become less effective. You want your shocks basically as wide as you can get them. So I invited my friend who is infinitely smarter than I am and the mad genius behind the front suspension, Randy, and we kind of talked over everything and we were looking, and he was like, hey, why don't you put your shocks out with your lower bar mount? So what Jared's going to do, this is my builder kit, meaning I can do whatever the heck I want with it. Namely, we're going to cut all of that off. And I'm going to take those and we're going to right down the back side of this, which then makes that coilover, boom, live right out there. And it's gonna make it work really stinking good. Sometimes I like smarter people than me coming around. You gotta always have smarter friends. So we'll plate and run our tube and our shock mount off the outside. So I think our next step, gonna get the slid back under the truck. We're gonna kind of start getting it in position. We're gonna get the right spacers and we're gonna start making sparks fly. So because I don't have a million hands to work with, our lower bar on a autocross road race mountain truck, you want this lower bar pretty close to 0 degrees. So that just kind of, with that kind of just stuck in there like this, like that, and bring her back around. All right, stay put. That means even if we went straight to the axle, that's not 0. Ow, there's a truck there. That is definitely not 0 degrees at all. If we put it together with that geometry, I may as well just go back to leaf springs. It would not be good. So, to make things a lot more complicated, but to do it right, I'm gonna notch this and bring that way up. We're gonna bring this way up. That's still not gonna give us enough, because that's gonna put us maybe there. And you can tell, that's still down a lot. Second step I'm gonna do, we're gonna come on up here, I'm gonna hack off this frame mount. And then I'm gonna flip it 180 degrees. So we're gonna move this pivot down to here. And if we do that, and we get that bar there, there's our 0 degrees. I'm actually gonna drop it down a little bit and probably plate it off the bottom so we can get it even lower. But if we're trying to do that, I need to be just a tick under the frame, I do believe. Which, I don't know. Because if I flip, it's gonna be that much, so we're gonna have that much. I don't know. Let's hack something off first and see what we can do, because then it also will let me run a longer bar, because we can bring it further forward too. Nothing says we gotta keep it there once we hack it off. Time to cut.
we got our brackets cut off, and then I wanted to go ahead and wet blast them outside, and I'm like, hey,
We got a weld on the axle. Let's get that wet blasted and the paint knocked off.
all good to go. It's been sunny all day, and the moment everything was ready to go,
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart, and I'm ready.
but you know, that's how life is. You make your plans, and sometimes it rains, and it's up to you. You either go forward with your plans or give up. The good news is I'm dry now.
Our axle's dry. Of course, we got flash rust because we weren't running our any anti-corrosive, but that's okay because they are clean and ready to go. And ready to go for what? If you remember, when we had everything in line, our bar angles were way too vertical. We want to be at 0 to 3 degrees. And when it was there, that wasn't going to work. So we're going to actually just reuse the factory bracket and drop it down. Now, we're not going to honestly end up that low, most likely. Maybe if we did, I'll flip it like this. Now,
You may be telling yourself, how's that gonna work? You're hanging below the frame. What on earth are you gonna do for strength?
if it's down here, how do you make it strong? Well, these are the same exact things. And look, it hangs below the frame. International, well, you just weld some angle iron on it.
Guys, it's sometimes so much simpler on these old trucks. If you wanna hang it low, just angle iron and boom.
It's all good to go. But once my different spacers come in that coordinate with my weird spring width, we're gonna get the axle back under there. We're gonna figure out just how low we're gonna go with this.
As good as the front was, I can't wait to see how good he is with a rear end that's actually doing what it's supposed to do. Who is ready for a progress update? You've seen me playing with tubes and strings and zip ties. And does that mean we have a rear end mounted? I mean, no. We're getting a whole lot closer. So we've got those lower brackets cut off, but we reached a point where I had to actually kind of start physically seeing things to start to make sense of it. We've got the drive shaft just kind of stuck in, but it makes it a little harder for me to fit in here too. Ow. No, a lot harder actually. The crossbar. QA1 sends you these brackets because normally you can mount it to the frame and weld it up, but I needed to end up above the frame. Here we go. There you guys go. So I drew up some paper and dimensions, ran over and ridge over with Randy's shop, cut those out for me, which has us starting to visualize all of these angles and bars. There we go. So these are our triangulation bars in the top. They're not actually where I had them kind of final set. Should be a little further out. There we go, there-ish maybe. Made sure our drive shaft can go all the way up. And we're starting to figure out numbers and math. We're working out our downward angle so we can start working through instant centers and all of that. And we're getting close-ish to welding. We're so close to welding them. One thing you'll notice, on a car, you're not going to get that long of an upper bar because, you know, you have a back seat there. So that's why QA1 includes these. But because we had the room, I wanted to go a perfect 70% ratio. Now, 70% ratio, what does that mean? Your upper bar wants to be 70% of your lower bar. So with a 30-inch lower bar, not including the end links, but the bar length itself being 30 inches, you want a 21-inch upper. So that's what we've got. I'd like 40-ish or so, but we're not able to get there. And because of the length, you're able to have a little less triangulation. That's what's going to keep this axle in the middle to keep it from shifting all around. Now you'll notice I don't have those lower bars. I was showing you the brackets and everything. I measured everything out in a whole lot of detail, and somehow my spacers don't fit. I don't understand. I measured the width of my hole, I measured my eyelet, and I ordered bushings, and somehow they're a little bit off. So I need to machine them down just a hair so I can get those on and started and welding and making progress. And once we have those ready, we can cut these down, make a whole lot of progress on the rest of our rear end. I wanted this to kind of be a one-ish and done-ish. We get the suspension, then we build an exhaust, but we didn't. We got the front suspension. Johnny drives absolutely amazing, and on paper and becoming reality, we are gonna have the ultimate rear suspension setup for a solid axle, and we're turning this old farm truck into just the ultimate mountain carver. Like, we're gonna terrorize sports cars. Oh, here, let me show you the one thing we can do, which is dumb. Here, I'm gonna put you down 1 second. Ha! What do you think? We just finally got that front ride height up off like this. We can set the rear down that much if we want. I'm not gonna do it because I want usable ride height and the truck's low enough already. So that's gonna wrap us up today. I tried, I ordered, I'm working as hard and fast as I can, but we're not gonna make a compromise because at the end of the day, we drive all of our vehicles as much as we can. This is not just one of those build it and park it channels. So if it's not gonna work in the mountain, it doesn't matter if I just weld the rear end in, because it's not gonna work, and that's not what we do here. So we'll see you around next episode on Johnny. We're gonna be back on the ground on the ultimate QA1 suspension, and I'm thrilled. Jared reminding you guys to always make questionable choices, and don't forget your electrolytes, especially in summer. You leak them out your body in the sweat, so you gotta put them back in. We'll see you next time.